The dust hadn't even settled on Maria Rodriguez's rental car when she realized the address on her phone was wrong. Subscribe to our channel and like the video, and stay tuned for more content like this. Dead wrong. She stood in the middle of what appeared to be a working cattle ranch, her designer heels sinking into the red dirt, watching as a man on horseback approached with the kind of slow, deliberate pace that suggested he had all the time in the world. She didn't. Maria had exactly 3 hours to get to the Hartley estate outside Austin for what was supposed to be the most important catering job of her career. Instead, her GPS had deposited her at some godforsaken ranch that looked like it hadn't seen civilization since the last century. The cowboy dismounted with practiced ease, his boots hitting the ground with a solid thud. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with sun-weathered skin and eyes the color of whiskey in candlelight. He pushed his hat back slightly and regarded her with an expression somewhere between amusement and confusion. "You're not what I ordered," he said, his voice carrying the lazy drawl of someone born and raised in Texas Hill Country. Maria bristled. "Excuse me? I put in a request for a ranch hand. Someone who knows their way around cattle and can fix a fence post. You look like you're about to attend a charity gala in Dallas." She glanced down at her cream silk blouse and tailored black pants, now decorated with dust. "I'm lost. My GPS sent me here instead of the Hartley estate. I'm a caterer, and I'm supposed to be preparing a 5-course meal for 200 guests in less than 3 hours." The cowboy's expression shifted slightly. "Hartley estate? That's 40 miles south of here. You took the wrong exit about an hour back." Maria's stomach dropped. There was no way she could make it in time, not with setup and prep. This was supposed to be her breakthrough, the event that would put her catering company on the map. She'd turned down 3 other jobs to take this one, had spent her last available credit preparing the most exquisite menu she'd ever designed. "No, no, no," she whispered, pulling out her phone. No signal. Of course there was no signal. "You all right?" The cowboy's voice had softened. "I'm ruined," she said flatly. "That's what I am. This job was everything. I've been building my business for 5 years, barely keeping my head above water, and this was supposed to change everything." He studied her for a long moment, then surprised her by taking her hand. His palm was rough with calluses, warm and solid. "Come with me." "What? I don't even know you." "Name's Jack Sullivan. This is my ranch. And right now you've got a choice. You can stand here panicking, or you can come inside, use my phone, and figure out your next move." Something in his steady gaze made her relent. She let him lead her across the yard to a sprawling ranch house that had clearly been in his family for generations. Inside, it was surprisingly homey, worn leather furniture, photographs covering the walls, a kitchen that was clearly well used and well loved. He handed her a cordless phone and pointed to a list of numbers on the refrigerator. "Make your calls. I'll put on some coffee." Maria called the Hartley estate first. As she'd feared, they were furious. The client, a prominent Austin socialite, told her in no uncertain terms that not only was she fired, but that she'd make sure Maria never catered another event in Texas. The words stung like a slap, each one driving home the reality that everything she'd worked for had just evaporated. She hung up and stood there, staring at nothing. "That bad?" Jack asked, setting a mug of coffee in front of her. "Worse. She's going to destroy my reputation. 5 years of 18-hour days, maxed out credit cards, missed birthdays and holidays, all gone." She was horrified to feel tears pricking at her eyes. Jack pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "Tell me about it. The food, I mean." "What? You said you prepared a 5-course meal? What was on the menu?" It seemed like such a strange question given the circumstances, but something about his genuine interest made her answer. "I started with a butternut squash soup with sage oil and pepitas. Then a citrus-cured salmon with fennel and grapefruit. The main was coffee-crusted tenderloin with a mole sauce that took me 2 days to perfect. Sides of roasted root vegetables and truffle mac and cheese. And for dessert, a deconstructed tres leches cake with caramelized pineapple." Jack let out a low whistle. And all that food? Where is it now? In the back of my van. Temperature controlled. It'll stay good for another few hours, but then it's all waste. He leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. I've got an idea. It's crazy, but hear me out. I'm listening. My ranch hands, I've got about 20 of them. They work harder than anyone I know. They're out there from sunup to sundown, and most days they're lucky if they get more than beans and cornbread. What if you fed them? Tonight. Maria blinked. You want me to serve my upscale Austin menu to ranch hands? Why not? Good food is good food. And I'd pay you. Not what that society lady was offering, probably, but I'd pay you fair. That's not the point. The money, yes, the money matters, but this was supposed to be my breakthrough. This was supposed to prove I could handle the big events, the important clients. Jack leaned forward, his eyes serious. You know what I think? I think you're already proven. You created something beautiful, something you're proud of. That doesn't disappear just because the wrong people don't get to eat it. But my people, they'd appreciate it. They'd actually taste it, enjoy it, be grateful for it. That count for nothing? She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. When was the last time she'd cooked for people who would actually savor her food, rather than Instagram it and push it around their plates? When had she last seen genuine appreciation instead of critical analysis? How much were you going to pay the ranch hand you thought you ordered? She asked. 500 for the week. I'll do dinner for 1,000. Deal. He stuck out his hand and she shook it, his grip firm and sure. What followed was the strangest and most exhilarating few hours of Maria's professional life. Jack helped her haul everything into his kitchen, then stood back and watched as she transformed his rustic space into a temporary fine dining establishment. She barked orders and he followed them without complaint, chopping vegetables with surprising skill, adjusting temperatures, even plating with careful attention when she showed him how. As the sun began to set, the ranch hands started filing in, dusty and exhausted from their day. Their confusion at seeing the dining room table extended to its full length and set with real linens was almost comical. Boss, what's all this? One of them asked. Maria here had a change in plans. She's going to feed us proper tonight. I expect you all to wash up and mind your manners. They did, returning in clean shirts with slicked back hair, eyeing the food with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. Maria served the butternut squash soup first, watching nervously as they took their first sips. The silence that followed made her heart sink, until she saw their faces. Pure, uncomplicated pleasure. Ma'am, one of the older hands said, I don't know what's in this, but it tastes like fall feels. Like home. Something in Maria's chest cracked open. She served each course with growing confidence, watching as these hardworking men savored every bite, asked questions about ingredients, thanked her after each plate. They weren't performing appreciation for social media or out of politeness. They were genuinely, deeply grateful. By the time she served the tres leches cake, she was smiling more broadly than she had in years. After the hands had cleared out, full and happy, Jack helped her clean the kitchen. They worked in comfortable silence, the kind that usually took months to develop between two people. Thank you, she said finally. I needed this more than I realized. You're good at what you do, he replied. Really good. That shouldn't be wasted on people who don't appreciate it. So what, I should just give up on the fancy clients? Cook for Cowboys full-time? He turned to face her, his expression thoughtful. I'm not saying that. But maybe you've been so focused on proving yourself to the wrong people that you forgot what actually matters. Those men in there, they'll remember this meal for the rest of their lives. Will those 200 society folks in Austin have felt the same? She knew the answer. She'd been to enough of those events to know the food was secondary to the networking, the being seen, the social performance. You could stay, Jack said suddenly. Not forever. Just for a bit. Help me figure out the meals for the hands. Teach me some things. I'd pay you properly, and you'd have time to figure out your next move without the pressure. That's crazy. I don't know anything about ranch life. You said it yourself, I look like I'm headed to a charity gala. So? You can learn. And maybe I could use someone around here who does look like they're headed to a charity gala. Might civilize the place a bit. She laughed despite herself. Is this really about the food, or are you just trying to keep the only woman who's been on your ranch in the last year around a little longer? He had the grace to look sheepish. Can it be both? Maria looked around the kitchen, at the worn countertops and the cast iron skillets hanging on the wall. She thought about her cramped apartment in Houston, the catering jobs that left her exhausted and empty, the constant striving to impress people who would never really see her. Then she looked at Jack, at his honest eyes and calloused hands and the way he'd fed her coffee and belief when she needed both most. 2 weeks, she said. I'll stay 2 weeks. Teach you to cook properly, help with the meals. Then I go back and figure out what's next. He smiled, slow and genuine. 2 weeks. That's a start. Those 2 weeks turned into a month, then 3. Maria learned to ride horses and mend fences. She taught Jack about reduction sauces and proper knife techniques. She started sourcing locally, building relationships with nearby farmers, creating menus that honored both her culinary training and the honest simplicity of ranch life. The hands started bringing their families to Sunday dinners. Word spread. People from neighboring ranches started asking if they could come too, offering to pay. Within 6 months, Maria had a waiting list. She never did go back to Houston. Jack proposed on a Tuesday evening, nothing fancy, just the two of them on the porch after a long day, the sunset painting the sky orange and gold. You're still not what I ordered, he said, slipping a simple silver band onto her finger. You're better. You're everything I didn't know I needed. She kissed him, tasting coffee and promises and the life she'd stumbled into when she'd taken the wrong turn at exactly the right time.